What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants have made another front office hiring just today, hiring Ryan Cowden to the front office, reuniting him with Joe Schoen. They have some prior experience together. Cowden most recently with the Tennessee Titans and was actually a guy that the Giants interviewed for their GM spot, considered pretty heavily against Joe Schoen. Of course, Schoen winning the job, doing a phenomenal job with the Giants so far, but now teaming back up with Ryan Cowden in the New York Giants front office. And I think it's pretty exciting to see how many different names and faces the Giants keep adding to this front office. They're not giving necessarily specific titles and positions and designations to these guys, but they just keep adding elite talent evaluators to the front office after making some pretty wholesale changes to the office this offseason, firing some of these players, director of scouting, letting him go. But now they're bringing in Ryan Cowden, presumably to do a lot of the stuff that the director of scouting would do, but serving as an advisor to general manager Joe Schoen here. And I think it's just really interesting, again, seeing how many different names the Giants keep adding to this front office. So we're going to go ahead, dive into that, what it means for the New York Giants, what it means for their colleges, scouting, evaluation, and everything in between. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on the hiring of Ryan Cowden?
I'm doing great, man. Anytime the Giants are adding top talent evaluators to the front office is a good day for me. And I'll tell you what, the Giants have been adding a lot of good ones the last couple of years, really just the last year or so. But I'll tell you what, one thing you cannot say bad about John Mara is that the dude consistently invests in his front office. He puts his money where his mouth is. Now, Dave Gettleman, not the best, but he puts the money there. He gives them the free reins to go out and get some of the best talent evaluators. And finally, with Joe Schoen and Brian Dable, he's brought in some guys who have great connections around the league. Brandon Brown, that dude's a freaking stud. He's a future really good GM in the NFL. You're going to see Brandon Brown probably get a GM job within the next 2 or 3 years, if I had to guess. The Giants are now a breeding ground for great talent, and that's ultimately what you want to be. You want to be producing good GMs because that means you're developing great guys and they're making good selections and they're helping the team in a positive way. Ryan Cowden, just a year ago, was a GM candidate. Now, obviously, leaves Tennessee. I'm not exactly sure why, but the connection with Joe Schoen makes it a really easy transition for him. And at the end of the day, the Giants have an opening. Now, the assumption would be because Chris Pettit, I think he was considered one of the rats of the last regimen that Joe Schoen had to kind of weed out. And a lot of info was being leaked this year. No info was leaked. Nobody knew what the Giants were going to do. And ultimately, that was a good thing because we were able to go out and get a couple of really nice steals in the second and third round in Jalen Hyde and JMS. But the information is being protected. And that's because no one is giving it away. And when you have people you can trust, that means the culture is good behind the scenes and the fish is not stinking at the head, as they said a couple months ago when they were replacing Dave Gettleman. So end of the day, Ryan Cowden, one of the best talent evaluators in football. He has experience as a scout. He has experience as, a college scout, NFL draft evaluator. He's done it all. He's been on the football field working with the players. He's done every portion of the game. He knows Joe Schoen really well. He's going to fit in like a glove because of that, already obvious relationship. And I think that Joe Schoen's helping out a friend. So his friend now wants to prove him right, now wants to help him out back. And I think that's always a good thing to have. Joe Judge, when he came here as a head coach, he didn't really know anybody. He didn't really have a ton of really great connections. He brought in some guys, he brought in I think it was Brian Burns, really good running back coach. But, some of those guys he just brought in aimlessly and didn't really know what they were going to offer. And I think that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable bringing in a lot of guys who they know, a lot of guys who they trust, and a lot of guys who they can depend on to make good decisions and give them the best quality information. And that's proving to be a pretty big catalyst for this Giants team so far, at least in terms of building the roster. So right now I'm pretty happy about where we're going in terms of our front office. I would say that undoubtedly our front office has to be one of the best in football in terms of modernizing everything that we're doing. Our entire strategy is 125 million% better and more modern than it was 2 years ago. For goodness sakes, We had the whole draft board. They fixed the whole draft room this year. Massive electronics, massive sheets, massive information everywhere. Dave Gettleman had like a piece of loose leaf with a written thing on it that said, "This guy is good, this guy is bad, and this guy is going to be a gold jacket player." Like, let's not make assumptions, Dave. We've learned that the hard way. Love Saquon, but the injuries, the running back position, we don't need to go into that whole conversation now. But I do really believe that Joe Schoen, what he's doing in terms of refining and building this front office, is one of the best turnarounds we've seen in this Giants team in a long time. We're finally on par with the rest of the league, and we're ready to compete with the rest of the league because we are not living in the freaking Neanderthal Stone Ages. We're not all around a campfire. We didn't just discover fire, all huddling around and jumping and dancing. We just figured out how to cook meat. We're actually building freaking flying cars now. This is my analogy for the Giants right now. Dave Gettleman was a prehistoric velociraptor who thought he was bigger than a T-Rex, and the Giants now are in the Star Wars era, and they're freaking fighting with lightsabers, and they're doing cool stuff. That's my analogy, like Jurassic Park versus Star Wars. I'm pretty excited about it. I'd love to hear your analogy. I know that was probably the weirdest thing I probably could have said in terms of comparing the two people, but it's the best way I can think about it before dinner, and I haven't eaten yet, so that's kind of my take on the matter.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a creative analogy to throw back at you about these two guys, but I will say I do have some extra information to add to Ryan Cowden and keep fans familiar with the guy or get them familiar with the guy. So he was with the Carolina Panthers for about 16 years. So that's how he knows Joe Schoen. Again, as you mentioned, having that synergy, being lockstep together, already having a pre-existing relationship is pretty important for Schoen. He made a lot of hirings these past 2 years for guys that he has never met before, but were really good talent evaluators. Brandon Brown being one of them, assistant GM now, and he's done a phenomenal job. It's been really exciting, taking a look at some of those videos of the Giants in the draft room, hearing all the different voices and hearing how just smart everyone sounds in that room during the 2023 NFL draft. And now just adding another talent evaluator. So Cowden is looked at as one of the best talent evaluators in the NFL. He joined the Tennessee Titans in 2016 as a director of player personnel, then became VP of player personnel in 2018. But most recently with the Tennessee Titans, he was serving as an interim GM for a little while there once they fired their GM midway through last season. But then again, he went ahead, interviewed for the job, did not get it, and is now leaving the Tennessee Titans. According to Pro Football Talk, though, 6 teams were interested in adding Ryan Cowden to their front office this offseason. The Giants win the bidding war. They get him. And again, I think that buys into one of the things that you mentioned with John Mara. You could say plenty about him, but one thing that you can't criticize him for is that he has some deep pockets and he's not willing to stretch the limit of those pockets in order to go ahead and hire the best minds in football. He's always going ahead, bringing in as many coaches as the Giants want. The Giants routinely have one of the largest coaching staffs in the NFL, and that's because John Mara is willing to spend. He's willing to bring in as much coaching talent as possible, and the same goes for the front office. John Mara is fine with adding in as many guys as possible who are going to bring the best New York Giants experience to the football field, find the best talent, whether that be in college or the pros. And now Ryan Cowden, just another guy who's going to be helping the Giants find talent, whether it be college or the pros, as an advisor for general manager Joe Schoen. And I'm really excited about it. I just think, listen, diversity in thought, diversity in, scouting technique, all that kind of stuff is really important here. And Cowden, being such an experienced, seasoned veteran in NFL front offices, it only helps the New York Giants grow and find more talent. And again, one of the main things, if you want to compare Joe Schoen and of course Dave Gettleman, the middle rounds of the draft, right? Because Joe Schoen was part of the Buffalo Bills, who found a lot of talent in those middle rounds when he was the assistant general manager over there. And now with the New York Giants, we feel like he definitely found some good talent in these middle rounds, got a lot of value picks in fourth, fifth round of the past couple drafts. And now you take a look at that, you compare it to what Dave Gettleman did. I mean, it was like a graveyard from rounds 3 through 7 for all those years that Dave Gettleman was here. First 2 rounds, sure, he was able to find some talent, but rounds 3 through 7, graveyard. Guys who just out of the league in a year or two, guys who just never caught on. And now hopefully with Joe Schoen and all of the different minds that are in this New York Giants front office, hopefully they're able to find more mid-round talent because, again, championships are won through the draft. They're not won in free agency. They're not won in the first round of the draft. They're won throughout the draft. You find your core players throughout the middle rounds of the NFL draft. And I just think that it's exciting seeing the Giants going ahead and adding a ton of different names to this front office so that they can find those premier talents in those middle rounds. But Ryan Cowden, again, Seasoned veteran, been in the league for a very long time, been around some really good front offices. He's probably going to be a GM candidate in 2024. This is probably a 1 year stop for him in total, honestly, because he's going to go in here, help the New York Giants scout and do everything that he does. But next offseason, he's going to be right back in the cycle, in the names, in the list of names for potential general manager hirings. Because again, he's a very seasoned, experienced guy with some really great talent under his belt. So, Alex, what are your thoughts on that? Kind of just having this guy in here as an advisor for a year or so. And of course, that would probably indicate that he's maybe not looking too much at the draft. I'm sure he's helping out with the draft, but he's probably helping Joe Shane with a lot more of the other parts of being a general manager. Talking about finances with a salary cap, looking at talent around the NFL, maybe potential trades or undrafted guys or waiver wire pickups. Ryan Cowden probably has his name in a lot of hats here and is kind of looking at a lot of different talent in the league rather than talent out of the league, considering this is probably not a long-term stay for him in New Jersey. So what are your thoughts on that? Just kind of helping Joe Shane with more of those day-to-day around the league tasks as a general manager.
I'll say this. The Giants now have several people in their front office that are probably going to be competing against each other for future GM spots, right? Brandon Brown, Ryan Cowden, they're going to be going up against each other for those jobs, which is a good thing because that means while the Giants may lose one of them, the other one's going to be sticking around. So you're going to have some talent there for a long time. But I'll say this, right? I think Ryan Cowden, there's probably three things he's looking at. One, next year's draft class. You can't get too much of a head start. You can never have too much information on future draft class. So you mentioned he's kind of going to be looking at what we have to look forward to this upcoming season. I would say I think he's going to start looking at the draft for next year now because the Giants, we have selections. Obviously, it's really important to have as much information, and it takes a long time to go through every collegiate talent. Like when that season starts, he's going to be the one at all of those big games. The number two thing, he's going to be looking at trade candidates. You're looking at those value picks that you can maybe trade late round selections or player swaps or whatever it might be to get more talent and add more depth to a position that might be a little bit weak. The third thing, I would say undrafted free agents, as you referenced, he hasn't been out of the league, right? He's been in the league. He's in the know. So it's not like he doesn't know anybody. He knows a lot of these guys. He knows a lot of the undrafted free agents. He is a college, professional college scout and obviously college NFL draft evaluator, talent evaluator. So I would say that he knows a lot about a lot of these players. And I think that ultimately he can provide a unique skill set that falls right into the utility man category of what Joe Shane is looking for. He can step in and help in a multitude of different ways. You can never have enough quality scouts on your payroll. You can never have enough quality guys in the front office helping to improve the roster. Sometimes different perspectives see different things, and that's ultimately what you pay these guys for. You don't want everyone agreeing all the time because then you're never going to get any better. So I think that having different opinions that you value and trust is always a positive thing, and Ryan Cowden does just that.
1000%. Really, just to round it out here, I will say the New York Giants, during their GM search, they put out, little three things to know on every general manager candidate as they eventually went and hired Joe Shane. But for Ryan Cowden, one of the things that really stuck out to me is that they listed his responsibilities with the Titans as he oversees all areas of Titans scouting department, both college and pro, including advanced scouting, free agent preparation, and evaluation of players in the NFL and all other professional leagues. So again, this is a guy who's going to help Joe Shane with every facet of being a general manager and really help with the scouting. A really great scout here, talent evaluator, is going to be looking at all the different options and possibilities that will help make the New York Giants a better team, not only in 2023, but beyond. So pretty excited about this. I think it's a good hiring for the New York Giants. Love what they're building in their front office. And of course, as we kick off with OTAs and as offseason programming continues to ramp up, a lot of exciting storylines that will be coming out of MetLife Stadium. And of course, we're going to continue to update you on all of them right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on today's topic down below in the comment section. And of course, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.